Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Thursday, April 17th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
Green Party co-leader Elizabeth May called it a rude awakening, learning this morning her party was no longer invited to the two leaders' debates.
Have skewed, unfair and undemocratic leaders' debates, starting with this evening's.
The Debate Commission pulling the plug for May's co-leader Jonathan Pedneau for the debates, citing a failure by the Greens to have candidates in 90% of the 343 ridings, calling it a strategic decision by the Greens to drop candidates down to just 232. May disputes that, blaming in part the snap election.
The only reason there weren't all of our nominated candidates making it to the ballot was because of the difficulty in collecting signatures and on time.
The setback adding to her and her party's challenges.
It certainly makes things more complicated for the candidates that are trying to get their name out there, and they're knocking on doors and they're being told that their leader or co-leader is not participating in the debate.
You voted for Elizabeth May in the past?
Yes.
And what about this time?
Not sure yet. I'm going to listen to the debates tonight.
First elected in 2011 and the first ever Green MP in Canada, she faces a tight race in the riding of Saanich Gulf Islands. Even her internal polling suggests a narrowing lead over the Conservatives' Cathy Unstead.
I'm quite happy with her, but I will be voting Conservative.
Despite her obvious popularity here, the impact of Trump, the issue of who's best suited to deal with him, and some progressives voting against Poilievre and leaving the Greens for the Liberals, hoping they form government, have upended this riding.
It's a tough election. Yeah, I'm not sure that I've 100% decided yet.
Voters have 12 days left to decide for certain who they support, a choice they'll be making without seeing a Green leader on the debate stage.
And Rob joins us now from Victoria. Rob, what did Elizabeth May say about appealing the decision to uninvite the party from the leaders' debate?
May Jung, she said that the party did appeal to the debate commission to reverse its decision, but obviously that did not happen. She also said that they'd spoken to a lawyer, someone she described as a prominent lawyer, but also said that by the time they got the information this morning, it was too late to launch a court challenge. So don't expect to see a Green Party leader on the debate stage for the English debate tomorrow night either. May Jung.
Thank you, Rob.
A bullet hole pierces the windshield of one vehicle. Right behind it, an SUV's passenger window completely blown out.
So it was like 7 pop, 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 pop.
It sounded like a semi-automatic gun. It was 7 shots in a row.
A lattice work of police tape crisscrossing through the Bain Co-op apartment complex, blocking off the murder scene.
I came downstairs, opened the back door, and then heard someone screaming for help.
It was around 11:15 p.m. when Co-op residents say they heard the gunfire.
Out my window, and I did see someone running, like hiding behind a car and then running.
And when they ran out to help, they'd find 2 victims.
Looked like one was here and one was here.
One young male was on the sidewalk struggling to breathe.
He said, "I'm gonna die." That's what he said. And of course, we're like, "No, you're not gonna die. You're gonna be okay." And we all kind of thought that he would be okay, that he would make it.
People were asking if he knew who the shooters were, and he just said, "I don't know. I think he was, I think he was afraid he was going to die. I think he knew he was going to die."
Another young male, who would be pronounced dead at the scene, sat unmoving in the passenger seat of a nearby vehicle.
He was slumped over, facing the like with his face down, towards the driver's side.
That SUV today riddled with bullet holes, at least 7 piercing the passenger side door.
Yeah, I was outside about 15-20 minutes before this happened. I was just glad that I was inside when it happened, because people are shooting each other in the streets. There can be stray bullets.
I think the residents of this area and the residents of the city of Toronto are right to be concerned about gun violence. But the Toronto Police Service are doing everything that we can do to address that. We do have an increased police presence here, but you're right, it is very troubling.
A troubling incident that some residents say is causing them anxiety.
It was quite upsetting and traumatizing.
Police are now hunting for 2 suspects. Two males are last seen fleeing toward Withrow Park on foot. They are described as being between 5'5" and 5'8" tall and were last seen wearing dark clothing. And of course, anyone who may have witnessed anything or shot any video on surveillance camera or dash cam video is asked to contact the homicide unit. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Emmanuel Gendron Tardif has been found not criminally responsible for stabbing his mother to death due to mental illness. On January 25, 2023, 61-year-old Lisanne Gendron was found inside a home on Fulham Street. Judge Hélène DiSalvo says Gendron Tardif suffers from schizophrenia, and the Crown says 2 experts found him unable to determine right from wrong due to his mental state when he killed his mother.
Les 2 experts dans le présent cas concluent au fait que M. Tardif ne pouvait pas comprendre.
The court heard that Gendron Tardif had already been diagnosed with a psychotic disorder, but in the months leading up to the death, he used cannabis and his condition deteriorated. DiSalvo says the filmmaker believed he was in The Truman Show and people around him were actors. According to the judge, his only way out was by killing his mother.
Il y a le syndrome du Truman Show qui a été soulevé par les 2 experts.
In a Facebook post, Gendron Tardif writes, "I loved my mother with a vibrant love," and goes on to say some people will never understand what goes on in the mind of someone with schizophrenia, but he accepts it and judges no one. The court previously heard from his brother, who addressed flaws in the healthcare system. His father refused to add anything else outside the courtroom today.
Je ne rajouterai pas de choses par rapport à ce qu'on a déjà dit, par respect pour Lisanne et pour la famille.
Gendron Tardif will remain detained at the Philip Pinel Psychiatric Hospital. In 60 days, Judge DiSalvo said he may leave the facility for outings, such as going for a coffee with a reliable and responsible person vetted by hospital authorities. And in 3 months, Gendron Tardif will appear before the Quebec Mental Health Review Board to assess the situation. Olivia O'Malley, CTV News.
Water was right up to this step.
It was meant to be a fresh start, a brand new rental unit in Embrun built about a year ago. But last month, a flood turned this property into a disaster zone.
You're trying to comprehend what happened. You're trying to come to terms with the loss because you know you can't ever get it back.
You can kind of see where the lines went up.
Jennifer Rombo lost everything, and she's not the only one dealing with the aftermath.
You think you're set for life, sort of, and now suddenly you lost everything.
I start to cry when I come out just to check up on the house and just try to, it's just devastating.
7 tenants suddenly without a home, displaced from this semi-detached property with 4 units in the community of St. Thomas Place. Now it's condemned, and the homeowners who bought them as investment properties want answers.
If that was made of any sort of grading issues, of any concerns of water, I definitely, absolutely 110% would have not purchased this home. You can noticeably see that this house is lower than that house.
Brendan Haldane purchased the property last February, but says he didn't know anything was wrong until months later.
Come spring, I saw construction going on. Everyone else was getting grass. When I realized that I was the only house that didn't have sod, it raised questions.
So he reached out to the builder Wasaga Homes and says that's when he learned about grading issues, prompting the construction of this retaining wall. Next door, it's a similar story. Homeowners Jose and Andrew Greaves say they also contacted the builder after noticing water pooling, among other concerns.
We noticed that the grading is very high compared to what the house is. And in an email exchange, they said not to worry about it, that they were working with the township for a solution to fix the grading.
But then the flood hit, causing catastrophic damage, uprooting the foundation, even flooding the house next door. The builder of that home, Vailcraft Homes, telling CTV News the semi-detached property should have never passed inspection. We reached out to the township of Russell. Officials declined to comment, citing ongoing legal considerations. In a statement, Wasaga Homes says we are fully cooperating with all parties to determine the exact cause of overland floods, declining further comment as to not hinder the investigation.
At the time when the builder had come out, when it was all happening, he said you're looking at easily $250,000. I have another house that my primary residence that I live in, and now I'm stuck paying 2 mortgages.
To make matters worse, Brendan says his insurance won't cover the damage, while his neighbors were told their costs will exceed their coverage. Both say they've been left in the dark, demanding demanding answers and accountability.
We're stuck paying this for the time being until someone takes responsibility.
Brendan and his family have launched a GoFundMe campaign while figuring out what comes next. The Greens have also filed a Freedom of Information request with the township, hoping to shed more light on the situation and what went wrong. Matt?
Just absolutely devastating. CTV's Caitlin Wilson live for us tonight. Thank you, Caitlin.
They were all smiles in Toronto as Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston and New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt met with Ontario Premier Doug Ford to sign a memorandum of understanding aimed at freeing up trade opportunities across provincial lines.
Today, we're taking a historic step forward to protect and unify our country, to build up Canada's economy by tearing down internal trade barriers.
In February, Houston was in Ontario again, announcing Nova Scotia would be the first province to introduce legislation to remove trade barriers and spur greater economic investment opportunities in other provinces. Today, Ontario tabled similar legislation matching Nova Scotia's move.
There is a goal, a challenge that's been laid down across the country of free trade in Canada, full free trade in Canada, across Canada, by Canada Day. And I don't know if we'll make that goal, but Nova Scotia's all in.
Both Houston and Holt signed a memorandum of understanding to move goods and services freely back and forth.
Without red tape, without added cost, without a burden on the businesses to get our products across borders and into each other's hands.
Dalhousie University professor Robert Hewish closely studies sanctions and tariffs and calls today's agreement a good first step.
And these tariffs aren't even necessarily intentional to try to reduce trade between provinces, but they're there and they're having an impact.
While legislation is key to reducing trade barriers, Hewish points out that Canada lacks the infrastructure to support seamless trade from east to west.
We do not have a rail or highway network that connects the country anywhere near to what the United States does.
It's the hope this agreement will motivate other provinces to join in and free up trade of not only goods but labor as well. Jesse Thomas, CTV News.
Gunfire erupting what was a quiet night in Alberta Park, Radisson Heights on Tuesday.
Very distinct pop, 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 maybe 10 or more. Thought it was fireworks. I just got my baby down, so I was like, what the heck? And looked out, and dark gray Toyota drove past here, could see shots through the windows.
It happened just before 7 p.m. on 12th Avenue Southeast. Police say some suspects ran into an apartment, others drove off.
One vehicle we located at the Peter Lougheed, and we learned that 2 people were injured.
One victim is in stable condition in hospital, and another was treated for their injuries in hospital and released. While officers think stray bullets hit nearby homes, no other injuries have been reported.
It's pretty quiet on this street. It's, there's definitely not anything close to that going on, especially with the park there. Very, very safe. So that was definitely a shock for sure.
Police are calling this targeted shooting very concerning since so many members of the public were put at risk. They had the victim assistance support team in the neighborhood Wednesday afternoon.
There's always the chance and that an innocent bystander is going to be harmed. There's always that chance. That's why the Calgary Police Service is going to be pulling out every stop to find who's been involved in this and hold them accountable.
Police Chief Mark Neufeld called this a very complex incident with 4 or 5 scenes around this city, which pulled in resources throughout the night. 4 people were taken into custody, but 2 have since been released. Nobody has been charged.
And Jacqueline joins us from the scene of the shooting now. Jackie, police are asking for help from the public, too.
Yes, they sure are, Tara. Actually, an undercover police vehicle pulled up just moments ago because they want to hear from members of the public. Doesn't matter if you heard or saw something, they want to hear from you. They're also hoping to speak to anyone who might have security footage if you live around this area, or dash cam footage. Keep in mind, these 2 drivers drove away from the scene of the crime after their shooting. They want to hear from you, and you can reach out to them in 2 different ways. One is anonymously via Crime Stoppers. The other, Tara, it's reaching out to their non-emergency line.
Jacqueline Wilson reporting. Jackie, thank you.
The Emerson Duty Free Shop is feeling the impact of Canada's elbows up sentiment.
Except those elbows hit us in the face, before they get to the Americans.
Owner Simon Resch's family has been running the shop for more than 4 decades, but now he says it's at risk of closing for good.
There's no getting out of the fact that there aren't people on the highway right now, and that's because of what's going on between Canada and the U.S.
The ongoing trade war with the U.S. has left the road to the Emerson border crossing quiet and the parking lot at the duty-free shop nearly empty. Resch says in the past month he's lost well over half his customers.
We can't sell to anybody except people who are leaving Canada going to the United States. We can't pivot our businesses. We can't target other markets, other consumers.
And he's not alone.
It's like our sales went off the cliff.
Frontier Duty Free Association Executive Director Barbara Barrett says the duty-free sector is in a full-blown crisis. The association represents Canada's 32 land border duty-free shops, all independently owned and family-run.
We'll lose 1/3 of our stores in the coming months if we don't have some sort of support or intervention.
With the federal election less than 2 weeks away, Barrett is calling for commitments from all parties to even the playing field for duty-free operators.
We're asking for very targeted financial supports to help us weather this storm.
With an uncertain future looming over his shop, Resch hopes something can be done before it's too late.
If we don't have people leaving our country, whether it's Canadians going down or Americans returning home, you can't operate a duty-free shop.
Now, in addition to financial support, Resch says the federal government needs to remove certain taxes on some of the duty-free products. And he says the current framework and taxes Canadian duty-free shops face give their American counterparts an advantage.
So, Dan, does the Emerson Duty Free Shop expect to see any business pick up in the summer months?
A little bit, Marilee, but Resch says he doesn't expect to see his regular traffic return until the tensions between Canada and the U.S. simmer down a bit.
All right, thanks for this, Stanton.
Students who go to the Conestoga College campus on 49 Frederick Street in downtown Kitchener will soon have to start going down the road to the campus at 1 Yonge Street. The same goes for students at the Colborne Street location in Brantford, who will soon be forced to go to Wellington Street instead. In a statement to CTV News, a spokesperson said, in part, the college's leases at 274 Colborne Street in Brantford and 49 Frederick Street in Kitchener will soon expire, providing Conestoga with a chance to look at operational efficiencies and opportunities to better utilize our existing facilities. Conestoga staff didn't specify when the changes take effect, but according to an email obtained by CTV News sent to faculty, operations will cease on Frederick Street at the end of August in Kitchener, and by May 1st, the Colborne Street location in Brantford will stop running. In the letter, staff said they expect little to no disruption, adding that transition details, including workspace arrangements, have been shared with employees directly. Conestoga College did not directly comment on how many students attend either location, but on their website it says the Frederick Street location opened in 2020, offering business programs to around 1,000 students. Now it offers programs to over 4,000 students.
Conestoga College did mention development of student housing will continue nearby at 22 Frederick Street in Kitchener, which involves the conversion of a 12-story vacant office. Leanne.
Okay, Heather, thanks for that. CTV's Heather Centerin reporting live for us this hour.
The move to ban fireworks in Wasaga Beach is receiving mixed reactions from residents. Earlier this month, council voted to eliminate the sale and private backyard use of fireworks.
I disagree. It's your property. You're paying tremendous amounts of property tax. It's your property. Do what you want to do on your property.
Well, as a resident, it can actually have quieter nights rather than what had than normal, so.
Wasaga Beach Mayor Brian Smith was unavailable to speak on camera today, but released this statement saying, there have been some troubling instances over the years of bad actors using poor judgment and setting off fireworks near large gatherings of families and children close to town organized festivals and events. Council is taking action to ensure our community remains a safe, fun place to raise a family, visit, and play in the sun. The town says no set fines have been determined just yet, but it is clear in stating fireworks will still be used at selected municipal events throughout the year. Jay Patel is a frustrated store owner who still has an inventory of unsellable fireworks.
It's very important when economically we are down with our sales. Everything counts with the little bit of everywhere where we can get our sales. It's 5% of the total sale.
Some people have concerns with the fireworks and the noise they cause. Others worry about how they can affect wildlife. The Canadian National Fireworks Association says there's nothing stopping people from buying fireworks out of town before arriving.
If it's fireworks today that the town has banned, what could be next? And I think residents should be concerned about their personal freedoms and their ability to celebrate responsibly in the town of Wasaga Beach.
Now, the town says it will lead with an education campaign before turning to enforcement and possible fines for violations. Again, the town says it will still go ahead with fireworks shows for Canada Day and its summer series events throughout the summer. Rob Cooper, CTV News, Wasaga Beach.
They've been leaking for years. They always leak like that. So that's what keeps the noise down.
Some wind turbines in the town of Essex have recently been leaking lubricant, a potential environmental and safety concern for nearby residents, according to municipal officials.
If it's getting down into the ground, yes. If they get it when it sits on the blades, then they can clean it up and repair the turbine. That shouldn't be a problem.
They're not new anymore, so this is what happens.
AIM Harrow Wind Farm launched these turbines 15 years ago. Company officials say they have a life expectancy of about 20 years. In a statement to CTV News, CEO Denny Richards said safe operations are our priority, and therefore identifying and rectifying any issues such as these is always our focus. Richard says while they work to fix the staining, the turbines are safe and there is no indication the lubricant has reached the ground.
And municipalities don't have a lot of tools in our toolbox to enforce, the cleanliness of turbines. So we're encouraging residents to contact Town Hall when they see things.
Mayor Sherry Bondi and others on council say there are more long-term questions that need answers.
It's a continuous thing, so I would like to get this in front of council so we could form a plan on what level of maintenance is supposed to be happening, and then what we're going to do moving forward.
Mady and Bondi hope company officials will be at an upcoming meeting with the town to discuss, among other things, who's responsible for maintenance, particularly as current windmill contracts expire.
And I don't think that enough attention was paid to these future issues that we're having.
The company says there are 24 turbines in operation at the AIM Harrow Wind Farm and that lube staining issues have happened in the past with 11 of them. Richard said if they decide to decommission or replace turbines, it's done under strict protocols with all levels of government. Stephanie?
Okay, Chris Campbell with our top story tonight. Thank you for this, Chris.